Good afternoon. My name is Tasya Amalia, and today I'm going to present my research on the importance of pragmatic competence to Indonesian EFL learners. Now, pragmatic competence is actually still very much overlooked in Indonesian EFL classrooms. The reason is that not many people know the advantage they get if they have pragmatic competence. Through library research, there are two questions that will be covered, and the first one is what are the impacts given by having pragmatic competence? And the second one is why is pragmatic competence not reinforced in Indonesian EFL classrooms? Now, for the introduction, when we talk about language, we also talk about culture. Culture heavily influenced language. Now, to communicate, we need to know the interlocutor's cultural background. As the study of context, pragmatics is considered to play a major role in the course of a successful conversation. Pragmatic competence can be defined as learners' ability to interpret communicative context which involves knowledge beyond the level of grammar. Now, to better understand the role of this competence, I will provide you with an illustration. Now, this conversation occurs between an English native speaker and an Indonesian student. Here, the Indonesian student is offered a drink by the English native speaker. The response given by the Indonesian student is only, "No, thank you." The Indonesian student felt disappointed when the English native speaker didn't offer him another drink. Now, this is actually due to the fact that Indonesians tend to be very indirect with what they want, whereas the English culture are very blunt about it. The illustration given shows how, without having pragmatic competence, meaning in a conversation cannot be delivered. Hence, this issue is being brought up to be studied further. Next is discussion. The ability to use a target language properly according to its cultural background is what pragmatic competence focuses on. They say that before learning another language, learners should have a proficient cultural awareness. With that being said, when a speaker failed to grasp the meaning intended by another interlocutor, it can be considered as pragmatic error. This leads us to the first benefit of having pragmatic competence, and that is to decrease the chance of cross-cultural misunderstanding. The second benefit of having pragmatic competence is to enhance the understanding of implied meaning in daily conversation. Now, this applies to the first illustration I gave on how Indonesian usually start by saying, "I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but if you have time, could you please?" Then they state the message. And another example where acquiring pragmatic competence is needed is how in the culture of English, they tend to compliment people to start a conversation. There is another illustration where English native student is conversing with Indonesian student. Here, the English native complimented on the Indonesian student's clothing, but the Indonesian student didn't realize that she was starting a conversation. So she just replied with, "Thank you." But this is actually considered rude in the culture of English because to continue a conversation is considered to be very polite in English culture. Now, for the second question, why is pragmatic competence not reinforced in Indonesian classroom? Now, this is because there are challenges in teaching pragmatic competence. The first one is teachers' background knowledge. Indonesian teachers lack knowledge in pragmatic competence. That is why they are not proficient enough to give students feedback if they make a pragmatic error. And the second one is non-authentic material. Indonesian students rely heavily on textbooks, but the problem is textbooks do not show authentic situation of how native English speakers interact. That is why Indonesian students aren't able to improve their pragmatic competence. Now, to conclude, we can say that the lack of pragmatic competence can easily lead to miscommunication. By the examples I have given, it is proven how critical having sufficient pragmatic competence is in making a successful conversation. Therefore, it is hoped that Indonesian teachers and EFL learners are able to overcome the challenges of achieving proficient pragmatic competence. That is all from me. Thank you very much for listening.